And Senator King joins me now. Senator, thanks so much for being with us. And it was really fun seeing
John,
those
great to be
moments.
with you. Oh, yeah, fantastic. That's the John McCain I knew.
Well, exactly. Tell us about that, because obviously he took policy very seriously, but it is so obvious that he loved to crack jokes about himself, make fun of himself, and frankly, make fun of others too.
Oh, yeah, he would get after us. One of the great things about traveling with John McCain, I told somebody the other day, it was like a long march with Paul McCartney. You never stopped moving, you never stopped going, there was always another meeting, but also everyone knew him everywhere in the world. People would recognize him, and you know, it's a good thing for a U.S. Senator to have a tourist hand you their phone and say, could you take my picture with Senator McCain? I mean, that happened all the time all over the world, and you know, he was always very gracious, but he also always liked to ding you. One day, he had a wonderful forum in Sedona, Arizona, which I hope will continue, on foreign policy. And for 2 or 3 years, he invited me out and I spoke and participated in the forum. And then last year, I went over to him and said, gee, I have a conflict. I can't make it this year. And he looked at me and sort of squinted and said, you're dead to me. That was it. And that's the kind of wit that he had. He loved to try to cut you down.
There was this one moment. We have a clip of it from Stephen Colbert. Let me play this, and then we'll talk about it.
Sure.
You were the 2008 Republican candidate for president of these United States.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, listen, that's one of the things. That's what.
After I left, I slept like a. After I lost, I slept like a baby.
Yeah.
Sleep 2 hours, wake up and cry. Sleep 2 hours, wake up and cry. Yeah?
So the funny thing is I heard him tell that joke for years after the 2000 nomination fight with George Bush, but he kept it in the repertoire and would recycle it over time. They're really an incredible sense of humor.
He was wonderful. And by the way, John, I hope at some time tonight you will play his concession speech in 2008. Yep. It is a classic of graciousness and healing and urging the country to come together. I mean, it's exactly what we need. And, you know, he was just the classiest of guys.
You know, Rick Davis actually quoted directly from it in the specific letter that John McCain wanted read out loud after his passing. So we did hear some of that. Senator King, I want to ask you specifically, again, you didn't know him before you got to the Senate, but then you did get to know him, and he developed an affection for you. And from what I can tell, it's because you were willing to work. I mean, yes, you're a nice, charming guy, but at the hearings that you would sit at, you would be one of the few senators to be in there for the whole hearing. And the reason that struck me is because Senator McCain, for all his heroism, for everything else, was a man of the Senate, and he wanted to get work done there.
Well, and every now and then, once he sent me a note saying, thanks for being here till the end. I like Senate hearings. They're one of my favorite parts of the job, and I like to sit right through them. So often at the end of the hearing, it would be he and Jim Inhofe and me, and we'd be asking final questions. And I don't know whether that's what made him sort of pick me out and take me on the trip and out to Sedona, but whatever it was. Now, there was a funny moment in a Senate hearing. Bill Cohen, the former senator from Maine who then was Secretary of Defense, was testifying, and at the end of his testimony, he looked up at McCain and said, now, Mr. Chairman, I would like to recognize my former governor and current senator from Maine, Senator King. McCain said, no. Cut him right off. You know, that was, he always reminded you who was the chairman, but and you know, we disagreed. I disagreed with him on issues from time to time, and in one memorable case, I beat him on a vote in the Armed Services Committee on the bill. I lobbied some of his Republican colleagues. He was pretty surprised by that, but he took it graciously. It was a big deal for Maine, and you know, but that was the relationship that we had. I think it was mutual respect. And I also had a very poignant moment on the floor with him. I think it was sometime in the winter, where he knew what was coming, and it sort of took me aback. But he said, you know, Angus, I've had a hell of a life. I've had a hell of a life. It couldn't have been any better. It's okay to go.
Senator Angus King, we'll leave it there with those poignant words. Thanks so much for being with us tonight and sharing your memories, and I'll give you a little promotion. We'll see you tomorrow morning on New Day.